Hi, Trevor here, reflecting on life through music. Thank you for stopping by. Well, coming again today, you're very, very welcome. How great to see you all back. I trust you enjoyed my last video on Avicii. In his very short life, unfortunately, it made a real impact on the world, and the song Wake Me Up, we looked at that very thing, let's wake up. So I trust you found that one encouraging. We're going from there to 1909. The story started in Russia. This guy was the ninth of 12 children, Russian descent, and it was around 1892 that the guys moved to the United States. There wasn't a lot of money, it was a bit of poverty at the start. They'd settled in Maryland, but then they decided to move to Chicago. Now, this guy's dad didn't want to let the poverty limit opportunities, and so he did expose his boys to music around that time, and that made a massive impact on the guy we're talking about. The guy we're talking about is clarinet band leading legend Benny Goodman. Now, so Benny discovered that music was kind of his thing, and he picked up the clarinet and he discovered he could actually play the thing pretty well. In fact, a bit of a natural talent, really. You can remember I did Acapulco a little while ago. Well, we're doing clarinet again today. Who would have thought 2 videos on the clarinet in a short space of time, but there we go. So Benny Goodman, he had sort of started, he was influenced very much by the New Orleans clarinetists. That's very much Dixieland jazz down there. But of course, he was up in Chicago, so the jazz is a little bit more cultured up that way. So he moved to New York City after a little while, and he went from being a session musician and playing with some of the jazz greats, really every conceivable guy this guy's played with. He ended up thinking, well, I just don't want to play other people's music. I want to do my own thing. And so he soon became a band leader, and the Benny Goodman Quartet dance band became world famous, absolutely. Got a few clips. We've got 1937, we've got the Benny Goodman Quartet, a bit of got xylophone in here, something different. We've also got piano and Benny, of course. Now, one of the things that was really great about Benny Goodman, we're talking the 1930s, right? We're talking, he dealt with the segregation between black and white and got people of colour to play in his band. This is a pretty significant thing for someone to do at that age, but because he was who he was, he could do what he wanted, and so he actually enabled people of colour to play with him, and some of the best musicians of all time actually are of colour. Pretty amazing. We then got again the Quartet, 1967. This is with the amazing Gene Krupa, who was renowned as one of the best drummers going around, really. And he and Benny Goodman actually did a lot of stuff together. So here we got a clip in 1967, Gene Krupa doing a bit of a drum solo, and Benny Goodman doing what he does. One of the things about Benny Goodman was he was known as the king of swing. So he was a catalyst for the swing genre, the swing movement, grace, but also quite ferocious playing at the same time. In fact, it was in 1938 that there was the famous Carnegie Hall jazz concert. This is considered one of the most significant jazz concerts of all time because it got all of the greats together and signaling to the world, hey, jazz is a genre, get on board. And that's absolutely what the world did from that time onwards. Moonglow was one of his original hits. It came out in 1933. We've got a song a little bit later in his career here to see him doing one of his absolute standards. We then got a clip with with his bigger band, and this is what you did back in those days. You actually had a big band. You know, everyone could play really well. But, you know, you had to have that many musicians on stage to get the sound you wanted. And so Sing, Sing, Sing is a Benny Goodman classic. We've got a live version of that one. It was around, but he continued to reinvent himself, and he dabbled with all sorts of genres, jazz. We already talked about the swing. He did dabble in classical music as well. I mean, this guy was absolutely a staggeringly good clarinetist, and so he could dabble in all sorts of things. He realised at that point that to be able to play classical, you needed to change your mouth a bit to be able to do that. So he just, I suppose, tweaked his embouchure, that's the mouth that plays the clarinet, and his fingering, just to be able to get his fingers around the different style, more free to more, I suppose, formalised music. But he reinvented himself over and over again, and actually had a lot of success in classical as well. It was around 1970s that he collaborated with George Benson. Of course, George Benson is, guitar jazz. And so get those two together, it's pretty amazing. So I've actually got a live clip of the two of them together, which is pretty amazing. So Benny Goodman defined many ways. First of all, he defined what it means to play jazz clarinet. He also defined what it meant to actually be able to change up your style and do lots of different things. He went from having trios to quartets to full jazz bands, and because of him, he paved the way for many after him. And so therefore, he received a few accolades. One's a Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, absolutely warranted that one. Hollywood Walk of Fame, star in the Hollywood Walk of Fame. He's been inducted into the Jazz Hall of Fame. He's been acknowledged by the Kennedy Center. There's a beautiful clip online of him and Peggy Lee and a few others doing what they do. A stack of honorary doctorates on Union College, University of Illinois, Columbia, Harvard, and Yale. That's just a few of them, by the way. Everybody wanted to have this guy sort of connected with them. So very well acknowledged by the academic world as well as fans. He has had a stack of albums. I was going to say stack because there's just so many that we don't have a definitive list of how many there were, but there's quite a few. Benny did leave us in 1986. And I think as I was trying to think about what I was going to talk about today, I think I need to talk about the language of the heart a little bit here. And that is music, even though you need to know where the notes are, music is actually not played with the head, it's played with the heart. Now, the head gets us to think, and it gets us to contemplate, and it gets us to try and intellectualize things. But often the world needs things that are not intellectualized. It needs us to go with the flow and just to go with what's happening at the time. And this is very much the nature of the heart. Now, as we know, the heart can be a little bit untrustworthy as well, particularly when it comes to love. But as I've said many times, it's not love that fails, it's relationships that fail. But you can't love with your head. That only goes so far. You've got to love with your heart. And you've got to trust your heart that it knows what it's doing, as well as trusting the other person's heart, and that person trusting its heart and knowing what they're doing as well. Music is the language of the heart, language of the soul, and you cannot intellectualize music. We can talk about it absolutely, but you cannot categorize someone like Benny Goodman without looking at just how effortless and easy he was at playing. He just didn't even need to look. His fingers just went for it. And this is because his heart had taken over. And we all know what it's like when, we watch an artist and we connect with them. It's because they're singing from the heart, not from the mind. And this is the thing that enables us to for our own hearts to be touched and inspired in our own journeys. So let's learn to trust our hearts a little bit more, because this is the only way Benny Goodman became as good as he was, because he trusted his heart. And you get to know what your heart is like. We don't always know what it's like. We think we do, but we don't always know what's going on there. So Benny Goodman absolutely knew where his heart was. And because of that, he had a pretty stellar career. So whatever the state of your heart is right now, whether it's been beaten and battered a bit, seems to be the case with many people these days, it can love again, it can trust again. Hey, just got to find that right person All right, and then that can be. But let's not put our lives on hold waiting for that right person, because there's lots of learnings we can do in the meantime. So I trust that will all be a bit of encouragement for you today as we carry on for last time on Wake Me Up. We're waking up our hearts as well. So the links to those 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Did I mention Sing, Sing, Sing? I think I did. That was the one with the big jazz band. So we've got links to 5 clips in the description below. I've included my last video from Avicii. So if you want to recap on him and his very short life, another one who followed his heart, I'm thinking that's there for you as well. Well, that's it for today. If you come back for another one, or this is your first time to Life Reflections through Music, how great to see everybody back. I noticed that Andy Williams got 71 views. Pretty exciting. So thank you to everyone for sticking with me. Really appreciate every single one of you. So that's it for today. Next time we're going to go on to BJ Thomas as we continue those artists A to G that I'm just remembering. So that's where we're going next time. So until then, I'll catch you around. Bye for now.